Hello everyone, I am Pro RM Daddy and welcome to this new video on data-driven subscription. So this requirement came from one of my customer wherein they want to create a data-driven subscription which uses Power BI Paginated Report. Um, and as you are aware, data-driven subscription are kind of um, not available directly through the Power BI service through Power BI Paginated Report. Now, in this specific video, you would see how we can achieve such a requirement through Power Automate. And we will also see that how Power Automate makes it little easy to make such such complex problem being achievable, I would like to say. Now, this scenario is a little tricky, and that's why I thought it would make sense to create it as a video and then share it with everybody. So before I get started, I would like to thanks all my subscribers for their love and support. And I understand that I have not been able to keep up. And you would see it's been nearly 6 months um, after which I'm creating my video. So I'll get back on creating the video more regular, and I apologize for such delays. Now let's go back to the requirement and understand why I said it's a little tricky. So if you look at the data have very plain, simple, um, let's say for isolated data, but this can be, let's say, replicated in a complex scenario as well. Wherein you'd see we have partner data, partner name, partner country, contract type, and contract status. Now, since it's a data-driven subscription, customer have created two additional data. In this sheet, as an example, if you see, we have the filter. Now, this filter are the unique filter, or you can think of it as different ID which is being assigned to it. In which you'll see that this filter consists um, the partner country, which you saw as one of the column over here as United States, or the contract type as IVAR and DVAR, and the contract status. So depending upon, let's say, a specific given filter, like in this case AMER, it should actually consider United States and two values for contract type, and then contract status, a single value which is active again. And similarly for APAC and for EMEA. The the challenge in this is that this is a multi-valued parameter, and for one specific filter we should actually send one email. So as an example, if you see the filter ID over here, AMER, this should send an email to this person, CC this person, and then the email subject should be this and email body should be this, right? And then for APAC and for EMEA again. So if we look at overall, there should be three email which should be sent: EMEA, APAC, and EMEA. And this multi-valued parameter, as you can see over here, over here. Now, there, as you know, there are multiple ways we can think of solving a problem. So the problem or the solution which I have created may not be the most optimal solution, but actually it gets the job done. So here it is. So if I switch back to how I actually thought of it uh, to achieve it was, what if we create a SharePoint list? And in SharePoint list, it's very easy to create a SharePoint list from an Excel file. Um, you can actually click on home as an example of the site. And if you say new and the list, You'll actually see from Excel is one of the options. So similarly, I created two lists. One is that filter underscore paginated, and I created one more, which is basically the email list underscore paginated. In both of them, what you would see is the same data which I showed you from the Excel. It's just that they are part of the SharePoint list. Now, beforehand, I created a paginated report. And if you haven't seen my previous video, I would advise you to see my previous video, which walks us through how do we create such report. And just to show you over here, if I select or if I execute this locally in the report builder tool, for one single selection of the contract type, you'll see this data is being shown. If I have multi-select, you'll actually see that there will be more rows which are going to be displayed. Now, I published this report and saved it into the Power BI service. So if I switch back to Power BI service, you'll see here this interface is the Power BI service where I have the multi-valued parameter being passed. Now, if I go back to the solution, I'll first show you a simple one wherein the logic may be not achieving the requirement completely, but over here, it basically is based on a recurrence, which means every day it will get triggered. And then I used a get item task. And what does this do? This actually talk to this specific, um, let's say, SharePoint list. And then I don't do anything additional over here. It's just getting all the list of filter, which we saw from the SharePoint list, which was this Excel with all the filter. So once I get that, I then use apply for each, which means for each value of that list, I could then call an export to file or paginated report. And this is something which I have shown in my previous video. So you would see that will, if you haven't seen, go back to my channel and you'll be able to see it. Now here, the main idea was that I could pass the contract status, contract type, and partner country, which means I can actually have this partner country, contract type, and the contract status being passed. And then it will export for one given combination, which is for United States IVAR and active. It will export one or create a file, paginated file, and then that file will be ready for us to send. Now this is where I used another get item or get item from SharePoint list. But here, as the get item from the SharePoint list also allows us to specify a filter condition. I said that what if the title, and if I show you here, and this is the logic, that what if the title over here is equals to the title which we saw from the filter ID which was getting passed. So for AMER, it will be AMER, and then it will give me one single row. So this is what this SharePoint list will do. It will just give me for that given title, whichever we are iterating through, which email list we have to send it to. And then since we are actually using a get item, the output can be, let's say, multiple rows as well. Here in this condition, it was 1-to-1, like one filter and one email address, right? So, but what if it was multiple? And that's why having this apply for each again, which is kind of a loop, will be good. And here again, this will give us the email body, email subject. And if you look at the content is actually the body, which was an output which we generated over here. And we generated a name, which is partner country, contract type, and then the PDF. This too is actually coming from this first loop, which we are iterating through. This works, but the challenge with this one is this actually will iterate through each row of this particular list, right? So over here, there are 6 rows. So the customer will get 6 emails rather than 3 emails. Because if we look at it, the filter conditions are unique, right? So this should idealistically be only 3. And this is where the challenge was, because um, passing multiple values into paginated report, um, especially through the export API, not the, let's say, um, not the URL part of it, but let's calling this export to file for paginated report is a little tricky, especially for multivalued, and that's where the challenges started happening. And there's a very good blog which is actually written by an MVP. And if I just show you this particular blog, and I'll put this blog description in our blog link in the description. Here, if you see, um, this gentleman walk through completely how to do that. As an example, he says, if we have the multiple values being available, then what we can do is we can create a variable, or in this case, in Power Automate, a variable, and that variable will be of an array type. And he goes through, like, what we can do is we can create a array of a variable, and that variable, whatever value we will give as an input, will generate a name value pair, which will be the parameter name and the parameter value, one list, right? And then that particular one can be then passed into the export API, and then that can then be attached to an email. And I have followed similar recommendations, which is available in this link. So do read about that specific article if you want to go a little bit deeper on this. So if I go back to my solution, just to show you first. So this may look a little scary, but if you see from the top, I'll first show you the flow and the output, and then I'll walk you through the solution per se. Here, I've used manually trigger, but it can be also something which can be based on a specific schedule. But if we look at it here, I initialize a variable, or in this case, if you see, the input was just a variable created p parameters, which was of array type. And similarly, in the first example, here I'm again using a SharePoint list, and the SharePoint list will give me the output, which is very much similar to the Excel which we saw. So far, nothing changed, but after that is where the logic changes a bit. As an example, I used filter to see if we can actually, let's say, filter that particular data which we have got from the SharePoint list and create a unique, let's say, output. As an example, if we see here, you'll see that there are unique output in here. And then iterating through a for each loop. And I'll actually explain that a bit more once we get into the design aspect of it. But this is where, once, let's say, we get all the unique, let's say in this specific case, all the unique key which we need. And you can see here, we have AMER, APAC, right? So we have AMER, AMER, APAC, APAC. So we had 6. But if we look at the final output after I use this compose, and behind the scene I've used union, what it does is it actually gives me only the unique value which is present in that filter key. So this one will be 3, and this is where you can see all the unique key is then I take, and then I further go into this logic, wherein you can see here this loop is actually executed 3 times. So you can see 1, 2, and 3, all the 3 execution of it. Now, if I look at the first execution, you'll see that um, since there is 3 parameter in it, and all the 3 parameter can be having, let's say, duplicate value, I again use the same logic which I used before to generate a unique list of value in each of these 3 column, but without calling that get API again, because the output is already there in the array. So this way I can get all the, let's say, countries. And once I got all the countries, then I got the unique countries. And you can see for the first argument, the country only had United States, right? But if we look at the second variable, which was this unique contract, this is where you'll see there are 2 rows and there's 2 unique values, right? But what I did is I actually also created, and you may see that there was a variable created over here as per the previous blog which I referenced. And in that particular array, I just added this name and value key. Name would be the parameter name, and that you can get it from the design of the paginated report. And if you go into the parameter section, for each parameter, you can see its name, right? So that's the name which we have to give. And this is what you can see, this parameter name. And the value would be the value which we got from this unique country output. Similarly, I had to do the same for the second parameter and the third parameter. But each of the 3 parameter is actually adding this entry into one single variable called p partners. So at the end of all this 3 step, what we will have is one parameter with a big list of the key value pair, which then get passed to this export API. And if you see the export parameter, it is this name and value pair, which is this is the parameter and this is the value. And then if we scroll down, this is the parameter, this is the value. Then you can see this is the name, this is the value. And then the last one was the United States, which is the partner country. So partner country and 2 contract status and 1 contract, no, 2 contract type and 1 contract status. You can see DVAR is type, and then here IVAR is type, which once it is passed to the export API, the export API then gives the result into the file. And then from here, it's the same logic which I have used in the previous solution wherein I'm passing that specific list and a filter condition. And that filter condition is saying that since I am iterating through the first one, and if you remember, the first one was AMER. So that's the same first parameter which is being passed as a filter, which will give me all the email detail from that SharePoint list, which contains only that corresponding to and from and request body. And that is then pasted over here. And this is it. This is the entire solution. And if you would see here, we got 3 emails over here. And you can see each of the email contains the attachment as well. Now, one thing that you would actually see is each of them contains 2 attachment. You can see on the right hand side, because each of them is actually iterating through the unique combination of the 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 argument which are getting passed, the multi-valued parameter. Just to show you what I mean by that, if I preview this, you can see the partner country data. And if I preview the second output, you would see the partner country data. The main idea over here is just to show you that this is just showing 3 email rather than 6 emails. Now, if I go back to the flow and edit it to show you the actual logic, this is the manually trigger which I was talking about. But then this is the variable part of it, which is basically an initialize variable. So if I click on add action as an example, and if we search for initialize, you'll see this is the initialize variable. So in the initialize variable, I just specify a name, which is p partner, and say that this will be an array type. And I keep it as an empty. And while I am explaining it, I realize that there is one logical mistake here, which is I should also set this parameter as blank after I am done with the for each loop, which I'll show you in a bit. But then next one is getting the all filters. And this is what I was saying, that once you click on, again, get an action and say get item, you'll see there are two get item. One is actually getting item from a list, and then second one is getting an item by its ID. I use this one, getting an item from a list. And when I use that getting an item through a list, you'll actually see that I specify just the name of the list, which is the filtered list, and the SharePoint site. Then this is where I have used actually a select operation. So if I click on add an action and then click on select, you'll actually see that this is the select data operation. So once we select the data operation, here the output is coming from this get all filter, and I'm creating one column called unique filter with the title, which is coming from here. And then in the compose, I use a union operation wherein I'm saying the body of that get filter key, which is this output, is what I want to union. So this one will actually create a unique combination of all the value which is present in title. So instead of 6, it will be 3. Now, once I get 3 output, I need to iterate all the 3 output, right? 3 filters. And this is where for each filter is what I have used. And then from here, I need to make sure I extract that key, right? That unique key, like AMER as an example. So that's where again I used a select, wherein I'm saying that the value, um, which is actually coming from this output, is equals to the item, and item is basically, and this is actually coming from the above actually, which is this particular value, and where I'm saying that the title should be equals to the for each loop and that unique filter which we got from the previous output, which is this one. This one generated all the unique value. Right? Now, this is where I added 3 parallel branches because I needed 3 parameters. So this all are doing the same or similar thing, which is here I'm again using select. So from select, I'm saying that the output of the body lets me get a partner country created, which is basically will be the item field 1. And this is because when we have this output put into the this get all filter output, it actually names each field as field underscore 1, field underscore 2, and field underscore 3. And that's why you'll see items field 1 is being referenced. And over here, it's the field 2, and then over here, it's the field 3. Right? And if I scroll toward right, you'll see the same thing, which is basically here, field 3. So once I got all the selection, then created the same logic of union, to union the value of all country and all country. And then for cases wherein each of those three column or three parameter can have multiple values, I again used for loop operator. For each value, it will actually just insert that particular data as a key value pair inside this particular array. And this is the key and this is the value, which is the item start, the parameter name, and then inside that, this is the variable which is created from this step, which you may have seen. So at the end, once I get all the unique value of this particular parameter, then what I have to do is I have to then export the API and then get an item which is similar to what we did in my first solution. And then let's just send an email action. So that's all I had to do. And as I was saying, the last action which I should have done should be again to set a variable. Like if I go to set variable action, then I could actually say that p parameter name should be an empty string. Um, and maybe just a blank. And that's it. So if um, I can actually export this and um, make sure that that is actually added in a description. But do let me know if there are any comments for this, whether you liked it or whether there are something you want me to probably detail a little bit later, or a little bit more, I should say rather. Thank you. I know this is a little longer video than usual, so thank you for sticking with me, and let me know if you like this. Share your comments. Thank you.